Let me just begin by saying how pleased I am to see all of you here today. While we had hoped that we could be together for this meeting, it became clear early last spring that our ability to ensure that the most people possible who could participate would be enhanced by planning a virtual meeting. So here we are, meeting virtually, sharing and hoping to have many good conversations together over the course of the next 3 days. Thanks for all your flexibility as we've moved forward. And now I'd like to just jump in and share with you what we're going to be talking about. So let's just start. I'm going to start with a welcome. We've already done a little bit of that. I'm going to follow the following outline. We're going to talk about where we are now, some of the funding that we've done over the past 2 years and some highlights. I'm going to share some new resources, talk a little bit about the future, spend some time sharing with you what we've been thinking about in relationship to the big questions on the table around diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, and then close with some celebratory news. So let's talk first about our team that pulled this together. Without the guidance of our team here at IES, led by Dr. Christina Chen, our contractor team at Basel, and our fabulous 2 co-chairs, Brian Boyd and Dore Laforette, we wouldn't be here together. So I want to thank you, Christina, the team at Basel, and Dr. Boyd and Dr. Laforette for everything you've done to make this meeting be as great as I know it's going to be. I'm sure that on this slide, you will note many familiar faces, but some new faces as well. A quick round of introductions to our newest NCER staff is in order. First, we are thrilled to have, or perhaps I'm most thrilled to have, Laura Namey as our Associate Commissioner of Teaching and Learning. Laura brings deep expertise in both developmental and cognitive science, is an established and recognized scholar, and brings both government and professional association leadership experience to her new role. Helen Kim joined us on the day that we were all sent home to work in March 2020 and has been managing our English learners portfolio since then wonderfully well. She's also part of the IESPI meeting planning team, so send her an email and say thank you for all the work that she's done. Michael Leonard joined us in March 2021 and is supporting Ed Metz on our SBIR program. Bennett Lunn is a Truman Albright Fellow, and he has been supporting both research centers since August of 2020. He's going to be starting law school in the fall at Columbia University, and we're going to be very, very sorry to lose him. And finally, we are pleased to welcome Laura Turkey-Faust. She joined us in early December 2021 and will be overseeing the Cognition and Student Learning portfolio. Welcome to them all. It's wonderful to have such an amazing team here at NCER, and without them, none of the good work that we are able to talk about today could have happened. So let's jump in to some updates and highlights of all that's been going on in IES and the world since we last got together. Next slide. Since the last time we were together was January 2019, it seems a lifetime ago, we have to begin with a conversation about the pandemic that has turned all of our lives upside down. In the spring of 2020, when it became clear that the pandemic was going to be affecting our lives for an unforeseen number of months, we reached out to you to identify what the pandemic meant for your research. We listened, or we hope we listened to your challenges. We extended budget periods for projects whose work had to slow or completely pause. We offered a small number of supplements given what our budget could afford, and we explored together what we can learn as a community. As we move now into the coming to the end of the second year of the pandemic, we are continuing to address the pandemic's impact. Next slide, please. It is clear to us all that the pandemic is not going away, and the impacts of the pandemic on our lives and the research we have been doing and are doing will continue for years to come. As you do your work, I implore you to please continue working closely with your program officer, talk with them about your challenges and successes so that we know what we can do to help ensure that the work that you're completing is the most successful that it can be given the lives that we're currently having to lead. As is our tradition, we like to open early on by extending congratulations to our outstanding predoctoral fellow or fellows. So let's begin with a congratulations to Dr. Sharde Bonilla. She received our 2019 Outstanding IES Predoctoral Fellow Award. She was nominated by her cohort, if you will, and by her leaders at the Stanford University Predoctoral Training Program in Quantitative Education Policy Analysis. Her doctoral committee, the leader of the Stanford program, nominated her for her exceptional work in the area of K-12 education policy. She's currently an assistant professor in the College of Education at the University of Massachusetts Amherst. She's focusing, as I said before, on K-12 education policy with a particular emphasis on the high school to college transition and on career and technical education. Thank you so much for all of the good work you have done so far, Dr. Bonilla. I wish I could give to you your certificate here over the webs. We will send you a signed copy, so stay tuned for that. We're really, really grateful for all you're done, and we are looking forward to everything that you are going to be doing with us and for the education and sciences community in the future. So congratulations again. So stay tuned for the Q&A, where we will announce who our 2020 and 2021 Outstanding Predoctoral Fellows are. At the time of this recording, we hadn't made our final decisions yet. So one good reason to come and join us at that point in time. So even while the world seemed to slow down, our work at IS continued. Let's talk a little bit. Let me share with you a little bit about what we've done and what we've learned and all the great work that you guys are doing. So since we last met together as a group, NCER has made awards during both fiscal 20 and fiscal 21. This slide here shows the awards that we made during the fiscal 20 year competition year. During 20, we ran 5 grant competitions, our SBIR competition, and accepted applications under the unsolicited program. As you can see, our largest investment, as is typically true, is in the education research grants, our 305A competition, but we also made large investments in our research training programs. In 2020, we re-awarded, I don't know what the right word is here, we made awards to 11 new predoctoral training programs, and that's reflected, as you can see, in the large amount of money expended in our training programs. We're super excited to support these programs and really glad that we're going to be able to support even more extraordinary young scholars who can help us continue our tradition of high quality education science. We made 121 awards. Our total investment was just over $200 million. In fiscal 21, as you can see here, we ran more competitions. Just so you know, much of this work happened before we had lots of our new staff on board. So we were working really hard during that pandemic year to get these new competitions up. We ran 8 separate competitions. Many will be familiar to you. You guys, I have the letters here because of the numbers of competitions. In our training program, we invested in our Pathways to the Education Sciences program, making 6 new awards, more on that in a minute. We also made an investment in 2 new research networks. Again, I'll talk more about those in a minute. We're really excited about the work that's happening. Across all of the competitions, we made 140 new awards, and our total funding was almost $240 million. So I know that many of you who are listening and participating in the conference today are recipients of some of these awards. So congratulations to each and every one of you. We're excited to work with you as you move forward. I know how much time and effort each application takes, and it's just amazing that we have such a wonderful group of folks that we're going to be continuing to work with you. I want to thank every one of you too who is out there who has served or is serving or has served as a peer reviewer. Without the work that you do, there's no way that we would have the work, we would be able to fund the work that we are talking about here today. So thanks to you, peer reviewers, thanks to you, research teams and PIs, we're excited about all the work we're able to support. While Anne Ricciuti will talk in greater detail about peer review during her presentation on the scientific peer review process, I wanted to quickly share with you our figures for the number of applications reviewed and funded for our primary education research competitions. As you will notice, during fiscal 20 and fiscal 21, we were in the fortunate position of being able to fund 14% and 15% of the applications that were reviewed respectively. That's a strong showing, and we're really pleased that we had both sufficient funding and a sufficiently large number of scientifically meritorious applications to support. So again, congratulations to everyone. There's so many exciting projects that we funded over the past 2 years. You can see, right? 250 or so. Trying to figure out which ones to highlight and which ones to talk more about is a challenge. I could probably spend the next 2 or 3 hours, if not longer, talking about all of the great work. But given that our time together here is short, I've pulled out a few things to highlight and talk with you about. First, I want to talk briefly about our new research training programs. We funded some really interesting and exciting projects, and I want you to know about them. I want to share with you a little bit about our 2 new competitions, the using longitudinal data to support state education policymaking and our transformative research in the education sciences. And I want to share with you our R&D centers and our research networks. These are big investments that really highlight where IES thinks we need more work, and we're really, really excited to see what comes next from those projects. And finally, again, COVID is going to be a theme. We have a theme throughout the meeting together. So I wanted to showcase just a few of the COVID-related projects that we're supporting. In our research training programs, I already mentioned that we funded 6 new Pathways in the Education Sciences programs and 11 predoctoral interdisciplinary research training programs. I thought looking at the location of these programs was of interest, and I just wanted to showcase that the Pathways programs, where we are trying to grow the diversity of our scholars, our young scholars who will be participating in work going forward, in many ways reflect where we see some of the greatest growth in terms of diverse populations in our nation. So we're excited to talk more about those and to talk about diversity, but that's coming later. In one of our other new research programs, the Using Data program for shorthand here, we provided resources to our state education agencies to incentivize them to use the administrative data housed in their SLDS systems to drive evidence-based decision-making. While the program specified who was eligible to apply and what systems the data should come from, the topic of study was determined by the applicant, as is true for many of our competitions. As you will see by the description on the slide, concerns about educational equity, the post-secondary labor force outcomes of education, teacher training, and how to keep students in school were the focus of the 7 projects that we funded across the nation. A second new competition that we competed in fiscal 21 that generated a huge amount of interest in the field, and we received, to be perfectly frank, many more applications than we anticipated. We were able to fund 4 applications that met this joint criteria. For the first time ever in a competition that we ran, the transformative projects had to meet both the criterion of being of the most significance as determined by the peer reviewers and of having the highest scientific merit. When you put those 2 requirements together, we have 4 awards that we made. And as you can see, they're all working in really interesting ideas. The first intends to use AI-enabled tutoring in a family literacy context to improve reading outcomes. The second is proposing to create a measure of culturally responsive schools to pilot it and test it with the goal of improving educational equity. The third is implementing restorative justice practices to impact, hopefully, disciplinary and academic outcomes. And the last project is proposing to transform credentialing to improve post-secondary outcomes. Each of these is very exciting, very interesting in forward-looking areas. So stay tuned to see what they're learning. I hope that maybe in our next PI meeting when we're all together, or perhaps the year after, we'll have a chance for them to showcase what they've been learning in the work that they've been doing. Over the past 2 years, 4 new R&D centers were launched. 1 focused on broadening participation in gifted education, 2 focused on improving academic outcomes for English learners in secondary schools, and 1 focused on improving self-directed learning skills in post-secondary learners. Please reach out to the PIs. There are links on these slides, and I'm sure that you all will have an opportunity to actually have the slides. Please reach out if you're curious and want to learn more about any of the projects. I am sure that each of the PIs on these projects would be happy to talk with you more about them. In addition to the 4 R&D centers, we also invested in standing up 2 new research networks. Both networks are composed of 6 teams, a lead, and 5 research or platform teams. The Create Adult Skills Network is exploring, developing, and piloting technology-supported innovation and facilitating the adoption of technology for adult learners. The Digital Learning Platforms to Enable Efficient Education Research Network seeks to leverage existing widely used digital learning platforms for rigorous education research. Stay tuned for opportunities to implement your research projects using these digital learning platforms. We're really pleased and excited to launch these competitions to award these grants in these 2 really critical areas to ensure the success of our learners across the full spectrum, from K-12 through post-secondary and into adult education. Before we transition to the next section of the talk, I want to return quickly and briefly to the pandemic. While each of your projects has become of necessity a COVID-related project, we have funded several projects that are specifically addressing COVID. 2 of the aforementioned projects from our Using Data competition are drawing on data in SLDS systems to describe how COVID is shining a spotlight on questions of educational equity and bringing those questions and concerns to the foreground. And many of you, I know many of you, have specifically created resources to support your communities and the populations who are participating in your research. 4 projects of note in this space are addressing questions of analytic methods, stress and anxiety, accurate interpretation of health statistics, and the disruption of learning trajectories. Be sure to attend sessions on our COVID-19 strand over the next few days to learn more about all the ongoing work in this area, to talk about the struggles and challenges that you all have faced as you're carrying out this work, and to think together with your colleagues and with IES about what we can do to ensure that the research that we're supporting and the research that we're carrying out is doing the best it can to address the critical needs that surfaced during the COVID era. So one of the positive things that we've learned during the pandemic is how open science and public availability of publications and data have enabled the rapid production of vaccines and understanding of the virus, how it operates, how it's transmitted, and what we can do to ameliorate the spread. While the education sciences are not quite there yet, we're not sharing our publications and data at the rate that we're seeing in the biomedical sphere, we're making progress. And each of you have a critical role to play in ensuring that what we are learning isn't sitting behind a paywall or in your file cabinet. In terms of publications, I thought I'd share with you the number of grantee submissions that have been submitted to ERIC since 2013, just over 1,900. Many of those articles have full text available, reflecting the 12-month embargo period that many journals are still requiring, which is why none of those 2020 records are shown in December of 2021 as having full text available. As the calendar shifts into 2022, I expect that those numbers will be changing quickly. If you aren't sure if you've submitted your peer review publications to ERIC as required by the terms and conditions of your grant award, you can type your grant number into the ERIC search engine to check. Please do that now, especially given that we've instituted a policy to check for compliance with our public access policy for current and completed grants before we issue new awards. This is a good time to check to see if your publications are in ERIC. And if you have any questions, I know your program officers can help you. Our public access requirements, as most of you know, or many of you know, isn't restricted to peer reviewed scholarly publications. As all of you with data management plans know, all grants who were designed to test the causal impact of an intervention are required to share their research data. This policy started for grants awarded in fiscal 2015 and beyond. We've extended the data management requirement to other grants that are collecting descriptive, perhaps longitudinal data, such as the Early Learning Network, that we think will be of importance to the field. And we're now at a point, right, 2015, it's been 6 years. Many of these projects are now coming to an end. They're completing their analyses, they're publishing impact papers, and we're beginning to assess grantee compliance with the data sharing requirements. As of last count, we have 248 IS grantees with data management plans. 55 of those projects have completed data collection. So we're now trying to see whether, in fact, those publications have A, published their impact findings, and B, where the data are stored. If you are one of those grantees who has data collection completed and a manuscript published, please, and you're uploading it to ERIC using the grantee submission space, please use the data source field in ERIC to share where the data supporting your published findings are located. This will make it not only easier for us to track, to know whether in fact you're meeting our compliance requirements, but it will meet the real reason that we're doing this. It will mean that the public is able to know where the data sit, other researchers can find it and have access to that data and potentially replicate those findings. So thanks for all you're doing to make public access, to make us meet our public access goals. And I look forward to any thoughts or suggestions you might have to make this process easier and to help us meet these shared aspirations. All right, new and notable, right? Let's talk a little bit about the National Center for Education Evaluation. Staying with the theme of how are we making sure that what we are learning is being shared with our public, a few highlights from our sister center are in order. So first, another shout out to a session that's coming that in case you were curious about learning more about how to make sure that your work is actually instantiating and carrying out the NCER principles, Matt Soldner and his team will be having a session focused on these new practice guides for researchers, focused on questions of generalizability and how do you enhance generalizability using the Bayes framework to interpret impact evaluation results. And speaking of data sharing, we're going to have some resources that are available on the NCER website to help as you're preparing your data to make sure that they can be shared with the public. Second, be sure to stop by the newly redesigned WWDC pages. If you haven't been there recently, you'll notice that there's been some reformatting, and so all of the information that the Clearinghouse has available is available not from a nice landing page. But I want to also encourage you to click through and read some of the newest practice guides that have come out. There are 3 that have come out, I believe all in 2021. One focused on assisting students struggling with mathematics, a second focused on effective advising for post-secondary students, and a third talking about and describing what we know about career pathways at community colleges. They're all worth a read, and you might find that some of the work that you're doing is reflected in those practice guides. So let's talk a little bit about what's coming next, right? I think that's one of the things that people like about coming to the PI meeting is that they're like, okay, what's happening in fiscal 23, right? The next time that we can apply for competitions. I can share with you what we know at this point in time. As you all are well aware, funds that are available will constrain the ability of us to make as many awards as we would like, right? So I always like to share this slide so you can see how the number of awards that we've made in prior or current years impact the amount of money that we have available for new awards. This year, at this moment in time, while we're operating under a continuing resolution, we estimate that there will be approximately $42 million available to fund new awards in fiscal 22. In addition, several of our fiscal 22 competitions are being funded using dollars allocated to IES to address pandemic learning loss through the American Rescue Plan. So that will allow us to fund even more work. For the projects funded by ARP, you'll notice that they're italicized in the slides that I'm going to go through in the next few minutes. So I'm sure many of you are well aware of these competitions and the deadlines that have been passed. These are all the competitions that we ran in 22. Deadlines. Applications that were received in August of 22 for the stats and methods competition, and for the second round of the using data competition, those applications have been reviewed. We anticipate making announcements in early February as to who are the recipients of those awards, so stay tuned for that. Again, as I'm sure many of you know, reviews for applications received during the September deadline will be reviewed in February, so next month, and announced over the summer months. So again, stay tuned. We're looking forward to peer review. We're excited to see what comes out of those reviews. We're also really pleased and excited to let everyone know, although I hope everyone already knows, that we have 2 open fiscal 22 competitions. Mark, as you all know, is really interested in having off-cycle competitions. This year, we're able to host 2 off-cycle competitions supported through American Rescue Plan funds. One is leveraging evidence to accelerate recovery, or the Learn network, that's really going to be focused on scaling products that are already evidence-based. So if you haven't looked at that RFA, I want to encourage you to do so. And the second is working again closely with the states and districts who are being so impacted by the pandemic and trying to understand how these recovery efforts are taking place in the pre-K to 12 sector and in the community college. We'll be standing up 2 networks. So our hope is that we will fund about 5 teams in each of these networks, in each of the 2 state and local networks, and up to 10 network teams under the Learn network, and of course network leads in all 3. So we're excited about those. Stay tuned. All right, so that's 22. For 23, just in case you didn't know, I think many of you do know, and we are collaborating with the National Science Foundation to support a new research institute on AI augmented learning. Our institute is under theme 6, the AI augmented learning to expand education opportunities and improve outcomes. And we're supporting, and NCER is supporting the work under track A, which is AI-driven digital platforms to expand and accelerate STEM learning in pre-K 12 settings. The National Center for Special Education Research is supporting work specifically focused on using AI to support students with disabilities in track B. Our future competitions for 23-2 will be informed by the NASM panel report on the future of education research. More on that in a minute. And I can say with 100% surety will include an ongoing emphasis on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility throughout our competition notices. So let's turn to that. So given the theme of our meeting this year, I wanted to spend a bit of time sharing with you what we've been doing related to the critical areas of diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility. We've been working on questions related to DEIA for many years here at IES, but under the leadership of Katina Stapleton and Christina Chin, we convened a panel of experts in late 2020 who provided us with many insights and recommendations. The recommendations were many, as I said, but we were able to distill them down into 5 broad areas that are guiding our work as we move forward into 2022 and 2023. The 5 areas are identifying our key gaps and barriers, developing an action plan, revising existing and develop new funding opportunities, attend to the research pipeline and our ecosystem, and engage in targeted outreach. So taking that under consideration, we started with the data, right? We're a research organization, we believe in data, so we realized that we needed to take a close look at where our key gaps and barriers were. So we started with the data that we had available, and I say with the data that was available, but I will tell you it's not as easy as it seems, to describe who are the institutions who have been applying to and receiving funding from IES. As many of you know who work or who have done work with minority serving institutions, MSI designation changes over years. So identifying which institutions are minority serving institutions and which are not is actually as straightforward as you think. But with the good work of my team who is sitting behind this work, we first wanted to know, we looked to see how many applications had been received from minority serving institutions. As you can see, between 2013 and 2020, the number of applications received was quite small. And of even further note, and probably further concern, the number of applications that were made to MSIs varied between both NCER and NCER, and were still much smaller than what we had hoped they would be. Key personnel demographics is another place, right? Another thing we want to know, who are the PIs who are applying work to us, applying for funding from us? If you submitted an application to our fiscal 21 competitions, I'm sure you noticed there was a required form titled the R&R Personal Data Form. After solving the technical challenge of ensuring that the personal data information was stored in a location separate from the grant application and not included as part of the peer review process, IES was actually able to move forward with collecting this information. As this is a voluntary disclosure, all PIs and co-PIs had the option of giving us information about their personal characteristics. The data on this table reflect information only about our principal investigators and are the combined data for both NCER and NCER across all competitions for fiscal 21. I think what's notable to me as I look at this figure, and I'm sure others are going to have different reactions to it, but the first is that the response rate varies as a function of the individual personal characteristics that people were being asked to report on. The other is to note that there is a discrepancy between the percentage of applications that come from applicants who are non-white and the number of applications that were received. We also have very, very few Hispanic individuals who identify as Hispanics who serve as PIs, either on the application or on who have received funding. And it's a similar story in terms of individuals who identify as having a disability. So the bottom line is we have lots of room to improve, and we can't do it without your help. And one of the things that I'm hoping we come out of this meeting is that we'll end up with some really good actionable suggestions that IES can take as we grapple with these figures. I also want to encourage all of you who apply to us in the future to, if you are willing and able to do so, to share with us this information. We're only as good as the information we have, and this information is informative and helpful for us. So the more information we have, the better we can address the challenge. So I've already mentioned this, at least the Pathways program, I've talked about it a couple of times already. When we think about what we're doing to address the research ecosystem, that is something that has been a big push in NCER's training programs, right? We've been thinking about this for many years. We have over the past decade incorporated explicit expectations about recruiting for diversity in our pre- and postdoctoral training programs. But I think most notably, we've launched 2 programs that have a strong and principal focus on diversifying the research ecosystem. Both the Pathways program, which we've now run 2 cycles of, and our brand new, for whom we have no awards yet, early career mentoring for faculty at minority serving institutions, are seeking to diversify both the institutions that provide our research training and to diversify the individuals who are carrying out research in the education sciences. So please spread the word about these. If you have other ideas about training opportunities that we could offer, please let us know, and stay tuned as we continue to think about how to build out our ecosystem. Just a quick overview for those of you who aren't aware of the successes we're seeing within the Pathways program. Since 2016, we've made 12 awards to 7 MSIs. These MSIs include 3 historically Black universities, 2 Hispanic serving institutions, and 2 MSIs designated as both Hispanic serving and Asian American and Native American Pacific Islanders serving institutions. At last count, we have 250 students who have participated in these programs, and at least 39 have started doctoral programs, which is the purpose, in many ways, one of the primary purposes of the program. And what's particularly encouraging, as a sort of indicating that this is a good and productive path to go forward, is that Pathways Fellows are much more diverse than the individuals in all of our other training programs and the key personnel on our research grants. Just a few facts, and there's many more that we could be happy to share with you at a later point. 45% of the fellows identify as Black or African American, and 21% identify as multiracial, and 37% identify as Hispanic or Latinx. So encouraging numbers in terms of building diversity in the education sciences, at least in our training programs. But we have also been asked, one of the things we were asked to do was engage with our communities. So over the past couple months, we have been engaged in listening and learning. We have been partnering with the White House initiatives for the Hispanic community, the Black community, the Native American and Alaska Native community, and Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander community. We've worked with the HBCU community to reach out and share information about the work that we do and get input about what we could do differently and better. And we're planning to hold events that also includes voices of persons with disabilities. Our conversations have been rich. Many ideas have been shared with us already. We're really grateful to the opportunity to hear and listen to these communities. And we're already thinking about some of the things that we can do to act on the suggestions that have been put forward. The question that we have for you and that we would really like your feedback on is, who else should we be talking to? Who are we missing as we engage in this conversation? So you all know how to reach me. Please send me any thoughts that you have so that we can continue to listen, to learn, to engage with the broad, diverse community that is our nation and our learners. All right, so now here we're getting close to the end. So thanks for sticking with me. 2022 is going to be a banner year, right? It's going to be a year of reflection, assessment, and planning for the future. It's a year, for me, it's going to I'm going to have been here 20 years, right before the official anniversary in November. But I think it's a real opportunity for us all to sit down and think about what's happened since the Institute of Education Sciences was formed in 2002. So we do like to celebrate, and we do want to share with our community of scholars what we've done. So there will be some anniversary events. Stay tuned, make sure you're on the news flash, follow us on Twitter so you can hear what's happening. NCER and NCER specifically will be looking to highlight IES research and researchers. Many of you may have noticed that there's been an uptick in terms of our blogs as we're starting to try to collect success stories. So if your program officer reaches out to you and says, hey, do you have anything important and interesting to share, please let them know. And we have we've been funding activities to help us take stock and plan for the future. So one example I want to talk about is on the next slide. The future of IES. So I know many of you are well aware that the National Academies of Science, Engineering, and Medicine, NASM, as it is fondly known, was asked to convene a panel to review the work of NCER and NCER. The NASM panel has been asked to identify 3 things: the critical problems or issues on which new research is needed, new methods or approaches for conducting research that should be encouraged and why, and what new and different types of research training investments are needed. We are anticipating that we are going to have this report soon after the PI meeting, so sometime hopefully in early to mid-February. And once that report is in our hands, we will review it, distill it, think long and hard about it, and anticipate that it's going to have implications. It will have assessments not only of our successes, but implications and recommendations for what we can do in 2022 and 2023 and beyond. So if you weren't aware of it, please know that it's there. Another activity we'll talk about on the next slide that we have been supporting is an assessment of what have we learned in 20 years of IES randomized trials. So this grant was given to Larry Hedges and Beth Tipton at Northwestern. It's focused on the randomized trials that we've supported over the past 20 years. And it is intending to summarize both our direct and indirect contributions to practice, our fundamental knowledge and understanding of education, what have we supported in terms of human capital, and how has the work that we've supported impacted methodological approaches to understanding causal impact. We want to just call out, if you are one of the investigators who has been asked to participate in this, we do hope that if you hear from them, you will agree to have an interview with them and share with them what you've learned. We're really looking forward to receiving the report from the team at Northwestern that's doing this. We think it's going to be really important for the field and really informative as we think about what to do next. And in addition to the work of Larry and Beth, I wanted to note that there will be another set of findings, specifically in the post-secondary realm. There are going to be reports produced by the College Completion Network, the Center for the Analysis of Post-Secondary Research, and MDRC through a project funded through NCER. All of these things all of these synthetic reports will give us information about the effectiveness of strategies to improve developmental education and post-secondary outcomes. And we're hoping that these reports will be serving as a resource for policymakers and practitioners looking to design strategies to support learners in the post-secondary space. So do stay tuned for those as well. So while we know that a virtual meeting cannot in any way approximate the engaging interactions and conversations that we see at an in-person meeting, we've set up, as part of the virtual meeting platform, a networking tab. So if you've not been in the platform, please do so to help facilitate some virtual interactions. You will notice at least two tabs. Under option 1, there's an attendee connection. This is a feature that will allow you to find each other and interact via direct messaging. So you don't have to pop out of you don't have to go to your email. You can actually do it within the system. So please check that out. If you're looking for a particular person, maybe you'll hear a talk and you want to reach out and chat with them after their talk. The second option is that we have message boards that are available. So this feature will allow attendees to post their comments, ideas, and feedbacks on 3 topics. COVID-19, it's been a theme throughout my talk, and I'm sure it's going to be a theme across many, many sessions, not only the ones that are explicitly focused on COVID-19. Methods and measurement, we're always trying to think together about what's the next area where we need to invest our resources, and we really want to hear you about how we can improve the work that we do collectively. And results from IES research. Embedded in each of these topics are questions, including ones focused on diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility, for you to reflect on and respond to. We hope you'll take some time to visit these message boards, engage with your colleagues, and help IES as we're continuing to think through what we've learned over the past couple of years and how we can change and improve what we're doing going forward. So thanks so much for sticking with me. We're excited to have all of this time with you. There is going to be a live Q&A, so please join the live Q&A. I can provide you, remember, with an update about who our 2020 and 2021 outstanding predoctoral fellows are, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions to me as we want to think through what we've learned this year and what's coming. So with that, thank you so much. All right, folks, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know it's the beginning of a long session. Already we've had wonderful talks, but I want to open, as I promised, with announcing the 2020 and 2021 IES Outstanding Predoctoral Fellow Awards. As all of you know, IES is immensely proud to have continuously supported interdisciplinary predoctoral training programs in the education sciences since 2004. We have conferred the Outstanding Pre-Doc Award since 2008. So we are continuing in this tradition. You guys heard about Dr. Bonilla in the pre-recorded remarks. And since then, we've made decisions about our 2021. So first, at 2020 and 2021. First, IES selected Dr. Ken Holstein from the Carnegie Mellon Interdisciplinary Pre-Training, I can't even talk, sorry guys, the Carnegie Mellon University Pre-Doc Training Program as our 2020 Outstanding Pre-Doctoral Award winner. His research expertise and engagement in the learning sciences and human-computer interaction was noted by his nominating committee and valued by all our whole panel of reviewers who considered everyone. One nominator described Dr. Holstein's research as a phenomenal once-in-a-generation thesis, right? I mean, gosh, if anyone said that about my dissertation, I wouldn't have known what to do, right? As I read his materials, I was personally impressed by his, and this is a direct quote, superpower ability to creatively solicit input from teachers in order to improve AI tutoring systems. As I reviewed the materials submitted on your behalf, I concur with your nominating committee and are thrilled to be able to acknowledge the work that you're doing and the research that you will continue to do to help us understand how AI systems can both help and enhance teacher performance and can be enhanced by teacher involvement. So Ken, I don't know if you're here, but I just want to give you a warning. I'm going to ask you to turn on your video in just a second here. Our second award winner, our 2021 Outstanding Predoctoral Award winner, is Dr. Marissa Thompson. As you all know, one of our core missions, surprise, is to improve academic achievement and access to educational opportunities for all students. Dr. Thompson's research expertise and her commitment to addressing the social processes that produce educational inequity in all of its various forms and inequality, right, was valued by her nominating committee and our panel reviewers for this award. I look forward, and I know we all look forward to seeing your future contributions to the study of educational inequality, and we're thrilled to confer this honor on you. Dr. Thompson, I want to also congratulate her as she will be joining Columbia University as an assistant professor in the fall of 2022. And I'm going to just say right now, Marissa, it is going to be your responsibility to reach out and find Bennett Lunn, our Truman Albright Fellow, who will also be at Columbia, but in the law school. So, Dr. Bania, Dr. Thompson, if you have your videos on, can you guys, I don't know how to spotlight anyone. Could we please put it out there? Because I want to celebrate for you. And again, we have to send you your official award documents. I don't know how to showcase people. Oz, is there any way to do this? I don't know. All right.
Yeah, just tell me their name and I'll try to spotlight them.
Okay, so Ken Holstein. I'm going to mess up your first name and I'm going to apologize already. Share Bonilla and Marissa Thompson. Oh, Marissa Thompson's there. She's here. All right. We're working on this. Sorry, this technical challenges of doing this. Normally you would just have to walk up to the stage. There you are. Marissa's here. Yay. So congratulations so much. I think it just speaks volumes to how much your nominating committee values your work. And we are so thrilled to be able to acknowledge all the work you've done and will be doing. I'm looking at lots of smiling faces, including yours. So thank you. And lots of congrats. All right, I'm not going to make you say anything at this moment, but just know we might join you at another point in time. All right, guys, love seeing all the congratulations. So if you all know those individuals, please reach out to them directly. And I am going to go ahead and start. I have some questions that are here in the chat. And, you know, as always happens whenever I take the podium, the questions are all about money, right? So the first question is, will there be another opportunity for supplements and to extend grant periods this year? Excellent question. Great timing. We are in the middle of having those conversations. I think that the short answer is more than likely yes. I certainly think that extending budget periods is absolutely something that is under consideration. We keep thinking we understand what's happening with COVID, and unfortunately, we don't, right? So things just keep changing. So please, again, talk to your program officers. They're the individuals who can help you. I know I'm planning to listen to lots of the COVID sessions because I really want to hear from you all what you're encountering and try to think together with you about things we can do to help ensure that the best work possible gets completed. In terms of the money piece of this, you guys know my answer, I think, already to this question, that there's always trade-offs between providing supplements and making new awards, and we're in a continuing resolution right now. So I actually am sort of challenged to say yes or no because I don't know how much money we're going to have, but it's absolutely on the table and something we're considering. All right, so that was really quick. So I'm going to, you guys can ask follow-up questions below. I'm going to go ahead and read through these, and then Paul's going to let me know if there's anything else I'm missing. The second question is, will there be another transformative grant competition? I'm liking the parentheses, which say maybe with more awards this time. So yes, there will be another transformative grant competition. I'm not going to comment on the number of awards that will potentially be made, as I cannot comment on that until we receive the applications. But the short answer is yes. So stay tuned. Okay, I like this for Eric. If we find we're not compliant in Eric and we rectify it by submitting the papers that we've not yet submitted, will there be a penalty? No, there will not be a penalty. We will celebrate the fact that you have done that work. So thanks to everyone for doing that. The time when this really is going to matter is that if you are in the set of awards that we are considering funding after peer review, we will not obligate that award until you are in compliance. So that's where you're really going to see it. So that's why I'm giving everybody, what is it, 3 or 4 months heads up. Do it now, and then you don't have to worry about it later. And we have a question here about pushing on the open data thing, on open data. There's a question here which says some of our data has too much PII to give out. He's thinking of one of Ryan Baker's data sets and his work where he makes a software service available that allows researchers to try to replicate and do new work, but not give out all of the data. Does that qualify? So I'm not sure I'm going to answer this question correctly. So whomever answered it, please follow up in the chat. Every individual PI who is required to share data should have developed a data management plan, and that data management plan will specify the conditions of sharing your data. Clearly, we do not intend and never will make available free on the web anything that includes PII. Most of the data that we're talking about sharing is living in spaces like ICPSR, where it is a restricted access type of data, where individuals who have sort of a scientific need to acquire the data can get access to different forms of that data. But excuse me, protecting privacy is always the key. Sorry, talking too fast. Okay, Vivian wants to know if there's a timeline. Sorry, guys, I've totally I can't even talk now. And I'm crying in public for all of you all to see. It's what happens when you talk fast. Vivian, there's no timeline yet, but as soon as there is, we will share it. I'm looking for other questions. Neil, I'm glad I answered your question. All right, other questions. Sorry, I'm done crying during the PI meeting. I'm crying because I'm so sad I can't be with you. No, not really. Although in part, what's great is I can see Martha Alibali, who many of you know. I've known Martha for a long time, so I can see Martha laughing at sort of what's happening here. So this is great. It makes me feel really comfortable. Jeremy Rochelle, if you guys can see the chat, Jeremy has included a link to CERNet. So if you're not aware of NCER, or you've not been following the work of our digital learning platforms, please do jump in, sign up for the newsletter. There's lots of stuff going on, and we'd like for every member of our community to be aware and following what's happening. So I'm looking, that can't be all the questions you guys have of me. Jeremy, you wanted to know the title of the awards. It's the IS Outstanding Predoctoral Award. Oh, but Neil is sharing their CERNet. Questions, comments, things for me? I'm sorry, looking at the chat. Hi, Doug. That's all I can do, right? The slides will be available. I think they're on the website. My team can respond. Sorry, guys. Jeremy, will you type in what CERNet is? It's the lead for the digital learning platforms. And the ERIC requirement extends for awards starting in fiscal 2012. So if you received an award in 2012 and beyond, you are required to submit all of your peer-reviewed publications to ERIC. Sorry, Gina, you want to know if I have a crystal ball? Gina Biancarosa wants to know if I have a crystal ball sense of whether funding levels will remain stable. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I do not. I know there's a lot of discussion on there's a lot of discussion right now in terms of what our funding levels will be. And it's hard to know, right? So there had been discussion about a year ago for an additional $70 million for the RD&D line. I don't know where that stands, right? So for those of you guys don't live in my world, I'm trying to plan competitions for between $40 and $130 million. Clearly, if we get an extra $70 million, I can do a lot of stuff, right? We can run a lot of competitions, but at this point, we don't know if that's in fact gonna be real. So I have to plan for 40 and my team can be ready to do all of the other, to stand up new awards. Here, let me just see what else. Doris Baker asks if we're intending to have awards that include international collaborators, particularly in the pandemic era. Doris, we've always allowed international collaborators to be part of our teams. There are sort of two constraints that you should be aware of. The first is that international universities are not allowed to charge indirect costs to the federal government. So that does put some restrictions and constraints from the international collaborators perspective. And the constraint, as is always true, is that there will be that the questions of the grant need to be relevant to the concerns that we're facing in the US education system. I hope that addresses your question. All right, Christina has indicated, Christina Chin, that slides will be available at the end of the day at the meeting platform. Sorry, just thinking what's going on. Oh, and Martha Alibali is reminding me to remind you that the ERIC requirement also applies to fellows in the training programs. So definitely, thank you, Martha, for that. That's an important and excellent reminder. Oh my gosh, someone said, what is my proudest IES accomplishment for the first 20 years and my aspiration for the next? Great question. My first is to not have a coughing attack during my next PI session. That's like, what's my aspiration for next year, at least at this one moment right now. I don't know that I can answer that question right now. It's hard to pick just one. For those of you, particularly for younger scholars who don't know me and haven't had the opportunity to interact with me, I think one of the most amazing things when I think back to these 20 years is that I came here on an SRCD AAAS policy fellowship, and the plan was to be here for a year and then to return to where you all were, right? Go back to the academy, continue to do the work that I was working on in early childhood and early literacy, work hard on that. Came to IES and honestly felt like I had an opportunity to take my passion and spread it widely. And I have been incredibly blessed and lucky to do that. And I have an amazing team that I am able to work with and an amazing group of scholars who have joined us in this work and we've all learned together. And so that's what I think about when I think about what we've accomplished over the past 20 years. Supplemental funding possibilities, again, another question about that. How likely might that be for those of us who are struggling with recruitment during COVID? I think supplemental funding opportunities are really going to depend upon what our big pot of money looks like, right? How much money do we have? I do want to remind everyone that there is also a restriction that is in federal and the Department of Education's regulations in terms of how much money, what percentage of a of a grant during the last project period or the current project period that we can supplement. So there are also those restrictions. So supplementing, it's not like the whole universe is there. It's actually a relatively small amount of money. Whoops, hang on. Gina's Claire, I'm glad that you all are answering my questions, so I don't have to do this. This is great. And let's see. Fiona Hollins is asking, how likely is the matching facility for researchers and research sites to become a reality? Again, you guys want me to have crystal balls. I don't have crystal balls. I don't know yet, Fiona. It's an idea that's been floated on multiple occasions, and we're thinking about what the IES and federal role could be in such a space. But I don't have a definitive answer yet. Questions. Christy Bergen asks, how might IES incentivize schools to participate in research? Good question. Don't have an answer for you, but it's always good to send all these questions my way. We can continue to think about them together. John Whitmer, for those of you who don't know, is a data science fellow who's here at IES and has been helping us think about data science opportunities that exist within the internal data that IES holds, and is saying yay to fellowships. We also have another data fellow, Zarek, and I don't know if Zarek is on here, who comes from my alma mater, University of Chicago, and he's been a great, wonderful thinker to help us as we think about what we can do with data science in a way that's useful, respectful, that can help us sort of leapfrog forward, but also make sure that we don't exacerbate any of the inequities and inequalities that we heard about from the opening plenary session. Christina. Okay. Oh, Christina Chin reminds me to remind you that we also have new math and science challenge competitions that are coming forward. Mark Schneider announced these recently. They're going to incentivize innovation in middle school science instruction, and another to improve math achievement for elementary students with disabilities. If you're not reading Director Schneider's blogs, I would encourage you to do so. He lots of ideas there. And if you haven't emailed him, you should, because he really does want to hear from each of you. And you all can also, of course, email me, but we want to hear from you because we're only as good as how much the community is supporting us and providing us with insights. All right, I am not sure. I think, did I miss any questions? Oh, wait, here we go. Some more things. Neil, you want to know, is an RFP out yet? There are 2 RFAs that are currently out right now. Both of them are ARP fundings with March 10th deadlines. One is the Learn Network that Aaron Higgins is overseeing, that's talking about trying to support scaling of products that exist in 2 years to address pandemic needs. We also have two networks under the 305X competition, which is looking at basically standing up state and local partnerships with researchers trying to understand what's happening in terms of pandemic recovery activities on the ground. One network will focus on work in the pre-K-12 sector. Alan Ruby and Corinne Alfeld are the 2 PI program officers who are doing that work. And James Benson and Alan Ruby are overseeing the network on community colleges. And wait, hang on, trying to go back here. Allison Cheng wants to know, how are decisions made on some programs not being competed in certain years? I think, Allison, I think that's a sort of a nuanced question, and it kind of depends upon what particular competition you're talking about. But we're always trying to figure out, how do we balance the available funds that we have, the requirements that we have in the law, which specify which, for example, R&D centers we need to compete, and trying to do this all within our fiscal resources. So that's sort of the short answer. There's a much longer answer that I would be happy to talk with you offline about, or others. We can have a whole session on that. Will there be additional listen and learn sessions to increase PI representation of scholars from underrepresented groups and DEIA issues? Katina Stapleton, if you are here and you have information that we can share, please put that in there. There are additional sessions, and we will continue to have as many as we have interest in. And I should say that my team has time to participate in. It's a lot of work. Okay, you guys are embarrassing me. All of the comments that are in here. The next sessions start at 2:45 and I have 1 minute left, which I think means I'm out of time already. So Sonia, people are asking what's happening in 2023. I will tell you that I do not have any answers to that right now because I don't know yet. So I want to thank everyone. I want to thank you for sticking with me as I had a coughing fit at the beginning of this. There's really no good reason for that other than that I haven't talked all day because I've been in this listening mode. So you guys got my early morning, but thank you all so much. I'm so happy to see your faces. I wish we were all together. It's going to be a great meeting. Thanks to Christina and Helen and all of my team and all the work that's been happening and the team at Bizzell and Clarity for making this work. So go take a break, get a glass of water, and we'll see you in 15 minutes. Take care. Bye.